All right, all right. We are back, Auburn Live Basketball Show. It's been a minute. Holidays always kind of throws us for a loop. Plus, the schedule was kind of weird. They had like a couple games in like a 2-week span, so there wasn't necessarily a need to jump in the show, JHead. But we're back at it, man. SEC plays going. We are back at it. How you doing?
I'm doing good, brother. How about you, Hoke? How was I hope you had a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Got your eggnog fix, and now you're on to a new drink, right?
Yeah. You get this is just Jack and Coke. Listen, after the way the night today's going, we're recording this Monday night. I should just be drinking straight Jack at this point. This day, Friday, and this day have been wild. I mean, fortunately, I had stuff to do, but Friday, man, I sat at my computer from 7:30 a.m. until until like probably 6 when I'm like, okay, pretty sure nothing else is going to happen today. But I mean, I didn't move because I thought more. Montgomery happened that day, but I thought maybe some more stuff happened, and I had stuff pre-written, and I was just on ready. But Keontae's back. OC and DC. Of course, Auburn still hasn't released the DC officially with Roberts, which is a little weird. Just say you're not retaining him. I don't really know what that we're waiting on, but doesn't matter. We've reported it. So those kind of two at least got us some big hurdles out of the way, and we're still waiting on a few more pieces. But we're here to talk about basketball. But before we do, quick shout out to GameTime.co, who's a sponsor of the show and sponsor of On 3. If you've ever needed like last minute tickets to games, concerts, comedy shows, whatever it might be, GameTime.co is an awesome app to go use. And I've started to see them actually more and more. I know we have a sponsorship with them, but then I saw like they gave Barstool Sports like 8 tickets to the national championship game, and I've started to see TV commercials. So they're growing for sure. But anyway, go check them out for last minute stuff. You can use the promo code War Eagle and you get 20% off. Again, promo code War Eagle, you get 20% off like your first purchase or something. And then they always have a deal where if you get tickets somewhere else, like if you get tickets from GameTime.co and then turn around and you see tickets somewhere else that's a better deal, they'll like refund you 110% of the gap or whatever. So it's a pretty good deal. I'd go check them out. GameTime.co. It's a good way to get some last minute tickets. And then also shout out to our main sponsor of the Auburn Live Show, football and basketball session cocktails in downtown Auburn. Go check them out. Right there on Magnolia next to Taco Mama, the good people. Joe, the manager, go in there and find Joe. Tell her I said, what's up? Tell her you're from Auburn Live. Great servers, man. Really nice people. They make awesome drinks. They still got the holiday menu going on until I think February. If you want to go in there and check out some of the drinks they had for Christmas and stuff, I think that goes on until about the beginning of February. And then it goes away. So if you want to go in there and check out some of that before it ends, go do that. But go tell them that the Auburn Live people sent you. Great place. Like it's a sit. You got to sit at a bar, or a bar seating, or couch seating, or booth, or whatever. It's not a stand-up type college bar, so you'll always be comfortable having some drinks and hanging out. So go check them out. Session Cocktail. All right, JHead, let's talk some basketball. SEC plays here. Auburn is 16th in the country, finally in the AP, really rising up quickly. It took them forever to get in the poll, and then they went from 20, and they got in at 25 and now went up to 16 as some teams lost, and Auburn looks really good. The computer polls, they're all top 10. They're top 5 in a few of those. A thumping of Arkansas. Boy, Arkansas, not to take away from Auburn, but Arkansas has got problems, by the way. I don't know if they're going to get that fixed. I mean, they're talented. I don't know if they're going to get it turned around. But Auburn did. Auburn just kept the pedal down. Beat them by 32, a historic loss for Arkansas in Bud Walton Arena. And now you got A&M coming up. So, I don't know, where do you see Auburn? They're 12-2. That was a great way to start conference play on the road, 1-0. What do you see and what are you thinking? What are you liking?
I love how the team's coming together, Hoke. I mean, you just talked about Arkansas, which brought in a lot of talented transfers, some talented freshmen this past off season. But for whatever the reason, Eric Musselman, it's kind of been his thing to be able to put teams together with guys from all over the country, it hasn't come together. And by comparison, Bruce Pearl nailed his evaluations in the offseason as it pertains to talent acquisition with the guys like Chad Baker-Mazara. Obviously, the young man from FIU. And then Chaney Johnson coming up from Division II, who's starting to get – I think he's starting to feel his way out somewhat. as far as what he's going to be at this level, but a team that's just, they complement each other so well. The rotation is so deep that Auburn was just on the attack all game long, and they never relented on Arkansas. They noticed a weakness. They started to attack Arkansas in the paint. I think you saw them get a little shot happy from behind the arc just early. And then they said, you know what, we're going to get to the rim. And Chad Baker-Mazara in the first half was a bucket. I mean, you hung your hat on him, and in the second half, it was Janai Broome, and he was just unstoppable. So you love how this team was able to complement each other, win in different ways. Different guys stepped up. Like Aiden obviously didn't have his best night, but Trey Donaldson had a fantastic night. I think 11 points, 5 assists, 0 turnovers, but Aiden still found a way to contribute with 5 rebounds and 7 points. So you had different guys step up on different nights. You've got 11 men that you can count on, counting Leor Berman, who, say what you want, if Leor Berman is your 11th man, you're doing okay. And I know there was some consternation from probably some of the people on the corner and other fans I saw on social media about Bruce not necessarily filling out all of his scholarships this year. But that's just the way basketball is. You're not going to go more than 11 or 12 deep. Okay. And so when you have a talented walk-on like him that you can give a scholarship to, it's worth it to me. But again, seeing how this team is gelled, how they complement each other, how they share the basketball, how, the different defensive sets that they get into. I mean, they can get into you from man or zone. They're still using their full court pressure somewhat to slow teams up, not let them necessarily get down the court relatively quickly. But it was a masterful game, and you could tell it was personal for them. Giving the way that Musselman ran on the court 2 years ago and, all the other antics that went on, that was personal for Bruce. It was personal for this team because there are a lot of guys that are still on this team that experienced that. And those guys came out focused, ready to play, and took advantage of a team that's yet to find itself.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It was an interesting game. Look, the first few minutes, it was App State all over again. They were down 11-5. They weren't playing defense. It's kind of a weird start. They were playing like a little bit of it was either like a matchup man or even some zone in the first few minutes. They threw out there and they looked lost. They gave up some easy buckets. They gave up a transition dunk.
Mm-hmm.
They were out of sorts, and Bruce doesn't normally call timeout, but that was a good one. That was a good one. He called that timeout. It was 11-5, and he wasn't panicked. He was just like, okay, let's start over. Let's just reset. And the second group did the job. Look, when a lot of people talk about we still see some criticisms of people that you mentioned, sort of Berman and Moore, just in general, the 11-man rotation and trying to narrow things down. Bruce is never going to do that. So it's kind of one of those things that if you want to argue about his 11-man rotation, or if you want to argue about, you can argue about some of that stuff, but you're kind of just arguing with yourself because Bruce isn't changing. It's what he believes in. And that was a great example. Look, he put that second group in, and Chad and KD and Dylan. That's what kickstarted that comeback. And there's going to be games where the starters get out to a really good start. But man, to be able to go to your second unit on the road, and they're the group that brings the energy up. They're the group that turns the tide in that game. And then the next time you bring the starters all back in, you're back tied up, and you're back in the rhythm of the game. And then the starters keep it going. It's a big deal. It's awesome to see. Chad Baker was so good. He's got that capability. We wrote about him and talked about him when he arrived, about this dude who at San Diego State put up like 15 in the first half against Creighton in the NCAA tournament, or whatever the number was. It was definitely double digits. And you're like, this guy can score. And in junior college, he shot 47% from three. This guy can score. But at Auburn, he's coming off the bench. That's not his role. His role is to score, but he does a lot of stuff, and there's a lot of people that score. Same with Denver Jones. Denver Jones was 20 points a game last year.
Yes.
That's not his role at Auburn. And so those two guys both can get buckets when you need them to. They can both score, but it's not their role. But what you saw on Saturday was Chad start to hit a three, found a little bit of energy, trash talk a little bit, which I didn't love. Don't like technicals. I just, like play the game. I don't like the getting teed up in that position. But he found himself early and was feeling it, and really lifted that team and they played great. And then you saw Janai come on and have a big game in the second half. Trey Donaldson played really well.
Yes.
Jalen Williams played really well. Really, those three guys, man, what are we, 14 games? They're 12-2, 14 games in. To me, the three most valuable players are the players that I wrote about earlier in the week as guys that played really well over the last week, but I think they're the MVPs so far, and it's Janai, Jalen, and Chad Baker. Those are my three MVPs right now. I think they're the three most valuable guys in terms of whether it's scoring, rebounding, assists, not turning it over, whatever it might be. Those three guys to me are the hardest to replace. Dylan does good things on defense, but he's not going to give you anything on offense. Chris is going to give you hustle, but he's not going to give you anything on offense. And then Chaney, I guess, would be your replacement, who's plays hard, hustles, decent rebounder at times, but little bit like it kind of reminds me of just a young deer. It's just like kind of goofy sometimes and trying to figure things out. Like his coordination's off sometimes. You know what I mean? But yeah, Janai, Jalen, and Chad Baker to me are the three MVPs of the season so far.
I think you're nail on the head there, Hope. I completely agree. And then the combination of what you're getting between Denver Jones and KD Johnson from the 2 spot, because it's a platoon, and the combination of what you're getting at the point guard position between Trey and Aiden. Like, honestly, when you think about the rotations that we had last year with Wendell and Trey is so much better than he was this time last year.
Yeah.
That it's an improvement. And then obviously, look, there's nobody that loves, our 2 guard last year more than me. But unfortunately, the scoring just wasn't there at that position the way that it needed to be consistently. KD could give it to you, but KD's best when he's coming off the bench and he's allowed to just go be KD. And when he's dialed in, he's fantastic. But Denver's a calming presence. He's a great athlete, a very good defender, and somebody that's filling his role, and he's not complaining about it. This is a guy that's probably the most impressive part of this team, Justin, is the fact that you don't see guys complaining. And when you win, that obviously takes care of things a lot, right? Like issues that sometimes creep into locker rooms when you don't win, you hear more about those things. But this is a team that truly looks like they're unselfish. They're playing for each other. There's no ego as much as there can be. I mean, obviously, there's always going to be a little bit of ego, right? But Bruce seems to have really managed this team well to this point, and he's got them playing their best basketball right now as we're on the precipice of really your SEC season. We're 1 game in, but by no means are we even close to the halfway point yet. And you got another big game with Texas A&M. This is your chance at a statement win. I think A&M would be your first quad 1 win. Maybe they're a quad 2 now. I'm not exactly sure where they are in the net ranking, but Auburn's got 4 quad 2 wins. Now with Indiana improving over this last stretch. Obviously, Arkansas was a really good quad 2 win. You got St. Bonaventure and also Virginia Tech all on your resume, but not that elusive quad 1 win yet. And with you playing the way that you are, and you get in front of that home crowd in front of Neville, there's a chance for an explosion. And just like it was personal for, I think, this Arkansas game, I think Bruce wants this A&M game too, specifically with the way Buzz has coached against him in the past. I think this is a game that Bruce wants, that his team wants after last year, and they want it for their head coach.
Yeah, we're going to hit on the A&M game in a second. I wanted to ask you, though, about something that Bruce talked about after the Arkansas game, and that was playing the App State game. He said that game absolutely helped us in Fayetteville. And the App State loss is a bummer. Auburn's better than that. They didn't play well. But I think that's a quad 2 loss at the moment.
Yes.
But they did learn. They did learn a lot. And, there's no doubt it helped them early in that game against Arkansas. Do you feel like that is vindicated, or you still feel like, how do you sort of view the App State game now? They lost, but in light of what you saw against Arkansas, how do you view that game and that loss?
That it was for the greater good. Sometimes when you lose, or like if you lose a game 75-79, guys are thinking that, hey, we're right there, especially when you're playing like a big name opponent, right? You know, they're not as willing to buy into the things that you need to correct to really play at your best level. Well, when you go into a hostile environment, obviously that was a massive game for App State and Boone. I think Auburn is the only Power 5 team they've ever hosted outside of North Carolina in the last 20 years. So just a really big moment for them. But for this team to get exposed that early to a hostile environment and to lose in the way they did to an inferior opponent, because let's not shade this here. Appalachian State is not as good it's not a good basketball team as Auburn is.
Yeah.
And so when you lose in that way and you lose to who you lost to, you're much more willing to buy into what your coach is telling you you need to do to improve. And it got their attention. And when you get exposed and you can put it on tape and you show them that, it just helps you get your points across as a head coach. And I think Bruce is right. Look, he's one of the few coaches. You know, he's gone to Murray State. He's gone to several other mid-major schools when other coaches won't do that. They just won't. But he's willing to put his team in tough environments, tough road games, not just neutral sites, but tough road games. And I think it makes them a better team when you get to SEC play. And you're prepared now to go into, you know, Fayetteville. And let's be honest here. That's a really difficult place to play. That gym right up there with Rump, to me, are the two places that are most difficult to play in the SEC. And Auburn was prepared for that. They attacked things very well. I thought Corey Williams and I can't remember who else he said was on the scout. I know he said Corey was on the scout. Yeah.
Chad Pruitt.
Chad did a fantastic job of getting this team ready. You saw what they were able to do defensively as far as making Arkansas uncomfortable, because either it was like a wild three or they were getting stuffed at the rim. Like there was nothing easy that Arkansas was getting in that second half. I mean, it was
like with like 4:40 left in that game, Arkansas with like 4-ish minutes in that game, Arkansas had made 2 shots inside the arc in the second half. In 15 plus minutes, they had made 2 2-point baskets at one point. I mean, they were a mess, man. Auburn was doing what they were supposed to do, but the Hogs are a mess.
They were. And in that vein, Auburn was 52% from 2, 39% from 3, and 73% from the foul line. That's going to win you some road games.
And look at the freaking bench points and the points in the paint. Read those again. Insane for a conference game.
I agree. And then by comparison, Arkansas, 32% from 2, 29% from 3, and 53% from the line.
Ooh.
That gets you beat regardless of who you're playing.
Yeah, at home. That's terrible.
It is. But again, this is a talented Arkansas team. This is a team that beat Duke. Okay. It's not like they don't have good pieces. How they did that? I mean, I think they beat Purdue in an exhibition game. Again, exhibition doesn't count.
That's right. They did.
But Purdue's a fantastic team, and it shows you what they're capable of when they're playing at their best. They obviously weren't playing at their best, but that doesn't mean they're not talented. And Auburn went in and they exposed them, and they're really making Arkansas kind of have a little bit of an identity crisis, because I think they're going to shake some things up as they move into SEC play even further.
Yeah, Auburn in that game against Arkansas on the road at Arkansas. Auburn won the bench 46-9. That is crazy. And they won points in the paint like 48-18. I mean, it was unbelievable. The domination of the points in the paint is one thing, but to win a bench battle in the SEC against a team that's a top 100 team, even if you say Arkansas is not even very good right now, whatever, 46-9 is nuts. That speaks to Auburn's strength and speaks to issues that Arkansas's got as well. So crazy good win for Auburn. Move up to 16th in the poll. Like we said, there's still 3 voters, by the way, that don't have Auburn in their poll. I'm going to assume they're blind. I'm going to assume that they're blind or deaf or both. Like, you could be blind and somebody could tell you, hey, Auburn here, and somebody could read you the metrics, or you could hear and not see, or you could not hear and you could see and you could, they look pretty good. I don't know. You got to be both, I guess, to not have Auburn in your top 25. And one of the voters covers USC. I'm like, bro, you watched this in person or you watched it on TV. You watched Auburn, boat race Southern Cal, and you watched the point guards and stuff. Anyway, the polls don't really matter in basketball. Like NCAA tournament looks at net, they're going to look at Ken Palm. So the AP poll stuff is just it's for exposure, historic purposes. But Bruce cares about that. So he cares about being ranked and being able to say it's been however many years ranked in consecutive polls, but 16th in the poll. All right, let's talk about A&M. You talk about that's the game coming up Tuesday night, ESPN2. I wrote about this today at auburnlive.com, and Bruce started his press conference off by talking about they've owned us. And they have, man, 8 of 10 since Bruce got here. 4 of the last 5. And it's not just that, it's win these wins. January of this past year, Auburn had a 28-game home win streak. A&M snapped it.
Yep.
They came in here in January 23, won by 16. Go back further, Auburn wins the SEC regular season championship. Their first round get with Jabari and Walker. Their first round game in Tampa, A&M lost, and they got smoked. They came back in that game. They were down 16 at halftime to Texas A&M. Jabari, Walker, that team was down 16 at halftime in Tampa, lost to Texas A&M in the first round of the SEC basketball tournament. Go back further, the Samir team, the Samir Okoro team that finished number 2 in the league, was 16-0 at home on senior night, lost to Texas A&M. One loss inside Neville all season. It was at the very end of the year to Texas A&M. So it's not just the fact that A&M has owned the series. It's like big games where A&M has been the only loss in an entire season at home, where they knock them out of the SEC tournament, or they end the home game, the home streak, the 28-game winning streak. It's like they've won some games that mean something to Auburn.
Sure.
And Bruce talked about it with Buzz Williams. It is a style thing, absolutely. Like A&M under Buzz, they play a style, especially on defense, man. They're physical. They get up in you. Their guards are physical. And they have just always given Bruce's teams a lot of trouble. It is absolutely a challenge of your manhood to play Texas A&M the way Auburn plays. You got to be physical. The guards have to step up and be physical. Last year, Auburn, Bruce mentioned it, and I went and looked it up, and he's exactly right. Auburn, in 2 games against Texas A&M last year, Auburn fouled them 63 times. 2 games, including the ridiculous game at College Station where Auburn lost by 5, and they sent A&M to the foul line 39 times. And I think Auburn shot 14 free throws. It's like a 25 free throw difference on the road, and Auburn still only lost by 5. But A&M's the best offensive rebounding team in the country. They've got fantastic guards that are going to come at you. I love this game as game 2. Coming off of, you went to Bud Walton, you faced that challenge, you got off to a great start. I love this challenge game 2. Win or lose. If Auburn wins it and they start off going to Arkansas and A&M at home and you start 2-0 in that scenario, that's huge. But for this team, playing this type of team game 2, I love it, because we're gonna find out a ton about what Auburn is about. Auburn's played some good teams. This is a different challenge. They always give Auburn problems, and I love what they're going to have to go up against and deal with right off the bat to start SEC. But we're going to learn a lot more about Auburn.
And I think they're going to have Auburn's attention, obviously. I mean, A&M is going to have Auburn's attention for sure. It's not going to be a situation where you're going to have to worry about Arkansas coming back against an LSU team that, or a Vanderbilt team that's just not on the level of where Auburn is right now. This is a team that's capable of beating you, and it's a team that has beat you, like you said, to your credit, 4 of the last 5 times. So this is one you want. This is one you're going to be dialed in for. You're not going to have to be worried about, being lulled to sleep for an upset or anything like that. They're going to have your full attention. So I expect Neville to be Neville. I expect the jungle to be ready to go, and I think these kids are going to be excited to play in front of a home crowd that's liably, probably other than the USC game, going to be the biggest crowd they played in front of this year. I mean, I think we've been sold out every game, but this one's liable to be exciting. And I think the fans are going to be really into it, and it should be a great game, and the atmosphere should be insane.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. A&M's 9-4, but they've lost to Virginia, Florida Atlantic, Memphis, and Houston. 4 very good teams. Houston's like number 1 in the computers. And then they have this kind of fluky loss to LSU. LSU gets back Jalen Cook, really good player, and LSU kind of put it together and played well and kind of handed it to A&M. But A&M's I guess they're 9-5 now. A&M's 4 of their other losses, though, are to really good teams. Although Florida Atlantic's kind of, they're sort of, I mean, they've lost a few now, but
Yeah.
but Virginia, Houston, Memphis, I mean, so A&M's losses are good. A&M's look, everybody for A&M's back on those teams that have Wade Taylor, Tyrese Radford, Henry Coleman down low. They're going to be tough. Wade Taylor, of course, was preseason player of the year pick and played well. Had against Houston, who we know what Houston does on defense. Wade Taylor had 34 on them earlier this year. And he had 35 against Florida Atlantic. He had 21 against LSU. That dude can score. And Tyrese Radford came in here last year into Auburn and scored 30. So those two guys, you want to talk about Bruce Pearl and what's the thing he's talked about with Aiden and Trey? Defense. How are they going to come along defensively? You're about to find out where they're at because they're going to play two dudes who are more experienced, who are more physical. And at this stage, probably better than those two guards. I mean, Aiden's good, but at this stage, those two guards are better than Aiden and Trey on average. Maybe not on every single night, but on the aggregate. So you're going to find out a lot about Aiden and Trey and where they've come in terms of playing defense and being physical because those dudes are coming downhill. Huge challenge.
No question about it. And
yeah, go ahead.
No, defensively, how do they play them? Do they change anything from what they've done in the past? Do they say, you know what, we play people the way we play people, and that's what we're going to stay in? I will be interested to see how Auburn attacks this A&M team. Do they do anything differently? It's going to be a battle, man. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, it's going to be good. Auburn just needs to – Auburn does a good job defensive rebounding, so that's going to be huge. Bruce talked about it, and, of course, you go look up the stats. A&M leads the country in offensive rebounding. They're rebounding 45% on offensive rebounds. Damn near one of every 2 misses they're getting. Free throw line, shot, whatever. 1 out of 2 they're going and getting, which is crazy. By the way, that was another insane stat against Arkansas. Auburn gave up 4 second-chance points in that game. 4. You might as well shut them out. I mean, that's an incredible stat. So Auburn's going to have to defensive rebound as a team. Everybody, they do a pretty good job. Trey gets down there and gets a few, or Aiden will go down there and get a few, or Denver. They've done a pretty good job of people going and attacking the glass and helping Janai and helping Jalen, who sometimes are boxing their guy out and maybe they just tip the ball or they kind of block out and somebody else can go get it. They've done a good job, so they're going to have to be phenomenal against A&M to limit that stuff and then just not foul as much. Auburn's doing a better job of not fouling, but that's going to be just how far have they come in terms of playing defense. Yeah, it should be a great atmosphere. Yeah, Bruce wants this one bad, man, because he talked about in the press conference. He's like Bruce, but he's like Buzz has outcoached me, and he kind of goes. For those, go watch it on. I guess it's on Auburn Tigers YouTube, but he says Buzz has outcoached me. And he kind of like sort of shakes his head. And he's like, and that happens at times, but yeah, he's almost like it pisses him off to even say that.
Oh, it does.
Yeah, but it's happening. But yeah, the only win out of the last 5 is that Jabari Walker team did beat A&M in Auburn. College game day came and Walker had a triple double, and Auburn beat him by 15 or so and took care of business. But that's it. That's the only game in the last 5 that they've won. And even going back, I mean, of course, A&M hasn't been in the SEC forever. They played a couple times before they joined the league. But Auburn at home against A&M, Auburn's 2-9 all time. Only one, and one of those was like in 90. So like really in the last 15, 20 years, they're 1-8 at home against Texas A&M is that Walker game. I mean, they just completely dominate. It just cannot beat Texas A&M. It's wild how they've owned this game. So one of those matchups, man, it'll be a big one for Bruce, a big one for this team. It'll say a lot if Auburn plays well. It'll say a lot if Auburn wins. It'll tell me a lot about this team because that's kind of my biggest thing with this team. They're talented. They've got a bunch of pieces. I just want to say at this point, it's about growth with them. How do they grow? Maturity, handling adversity. That's sort of the stuff I'm looking at, which is why, by the way, I was a little annoyed with Chad Baker getting a technical and a little bit annoyed when Trey got a technical. I love those kids, but I'm like, I just want them to play. I don't like that stuff. To me, it's just kind of a sign of immaturity to mouth off and get a technical early in the game, or mouth off to the bench when you're up. And it's like there's just no reason. There's just no reason. And I see it because I'm also in practice, and I see them do little things, and I see the coaches go, just play. I see them in practice. I see them do little things like that, and the coaches get onto them going, hey, shut up and go play.
Mm-hmm.
So when I see it in the game, I'm just like, it's a little bit more, but I just want to see them continue to grow and mature and develop. And beating A&M would be, to me, a huge step forward in that regard.
Could not agree with you more. I mean, it's something that is going to kind of define the ceiling for us a little bit, Justin. I think as we're watching this team, you get this kind of a win this early, and it sets the tone for what you're capable of. Maybe you're 13, 14 wins in the SEC this year. You get this kind of a win this early. You don't, and you lose one at home that you need to get. Maybe you're looking more 11, 12, wins in the SEC and not as good of a seed, maybe even as low as 10. So who really knows? But I think how this game is played, what we're capable of doing at home, getting a big one against a good A&M team, absolutely, this is a tournament resume game. Okay, that's what this is. Get this one now, build some confidence, go on a streak, because you got an opportunity to run about probably 4 games off before you're going to go into Tuscaloosa, right? And that'll be the next big test for this team to go on the road in Tuscaloosa. Now, look, I don't want to overlook anybody else. I think we've got LSU and Vanderbilt in that same stretch, and those are going to be difficult games as well. But, or maybe it's Ole Miss. I can't remember. But still, this is a big one. This is one you need to get. This is one you need to take advantage of it and pad that NCAA tournament resume.
Yeah, you're right. You get past this one, you've got 3 of your next 4 at home. You got A&M at home, LSU at home, Vanderbilt's on the road, Ole Miss at home before you go to Alabama. So this is a big one. This is a big one. You get this one, and there's no reason to think Auburn shouldn't be sitting there at 5-0 in the league, top 10 in the country when they go to Alabama. And really, who cares about top 10 in the country? You should be sitting there at 5-0 in the league, and off to just a great start. And when Bruce talks about being in position to be in position, which is kind of a funny saying, but I sort of like it. That's, you 5-0, you're in position there to then go, okay, we settle into a little bit of a groove. We're 5-0. You're in great spot now, projecting forward to be like, man, we play well. There's no reason we shouldn't finish top 3 in the league, or certainly you finish 5-0 and you're in the running. So A&M's a big one to get to 5-0 in the league before you go to Bama, because then you got Bama on the road, Mississippi State on the road. You got 3 or 4 on the road after this little stretch. So Tuesday night's a big one. It's a big swing game for Auburn, I think, in the conference schedule. And I don't think they play. Yeah, it's the only time they're going to play A&M. So this is your shot at them. You won't have a chance to get them back. When you talk about tournament resumes, sometimes you'd love to be able to say, well, we lost this one, but we also came back and beat them. This is one where you play them once, so get the W and move on. All right, JHead. We'll be tuned in. I'll be there, Neville Arena, 8 o'clock. I know you'll be watching. It'll be should be a really good one. They're giving out Bruce Pearl T-shirts for the students. Those things are sweet. I'm wondering how many students are going to grab like 4 and sell 3 of them on eBay, because they're awesome. Celebrating his 10 years at Auburn, which is just easy that he's been here 10 years.
I would agree. I mean, it feels like he got hired yesterday.
Man,
coming off that Tony Barbe era. Excuse me.
That was the worst. But yeah, man, 10 years. It's kind of been 2 different eras. It's like the first handful of years where you got to go in, and then the Mustafa Heron, Bryce Jared, the regular season champion, Deshaun Murray that year sort of catapulted. And since then, it's been nothing but, outside of COVID, it's really been nothing but damn near elite basketball for 1, 2, 3. What are we on? 1, 2, 3. COVID was 4, 5, 6. This is year 7, really, of Auburn being an absolute national team and SEC contending team minus COVID year. So
absolutely. And if you don't, so you've got the COVID year, and then the season before that, they canceled the tournament. Otherwise, that's another tournament team. And like you said, we finished 2nd in the SEC that season. Yeah. So that's another year that Bruce kind of got robbed of potentially being another Sweet 16 team and showing you what Auburn basketball truly is in this day and time.
Hey, we can get out of here, but I was going to ask you this, or we could do it next time, but I want to get your opinion. the computer polls, I think from an analytics standpoint, it's outside of, I still think the Jabari Walker team is the best overall team he's had.
Sure.
Do you think this team's got a chance to be close to that? Or when we're talking about balance and overall, just like overall what they do offensively, defensively, they shoot the three or they assist, just overall balance. I still like that team because defensively they were so good and they were still top 25 on offense and you could beat you in a lot of different ways. But this team doesn't have the star power that team has. But analytics wise, there has never been a Bruce Pearl team off to this kind of start. They have never gone into SEC play. They're sitting here top 10 in offense and defense right now.
Yep.
They have never been this high. And Ken Palm's got them 9-9 offense and defense. T Rank has got them 8-10 offense and defensive efficiency in the country. They've never finished with numbers that high. They've certainly never started SEC play with numbers that high. Damn, they're balanced, man.
I think that's the thing about this team, Justin, that makes it so unique by comparison. The team you just mentioned, the Walker Jabari team, realistically, the guard play just wasn't there to really carry that team. And then they ran into a bad matchup against Miami in the tournament. This team, 1 through 5, anybody can go off. I mean, they really can. They're not overly limited in one area or another. And I think the outside shooting as far as three-point efficiency really kind of is what separates this team. Now, you had 2 big-time stars. I mean, first-round NBA talents on that roster, right? And you can't mitigate what those guys meant to that team. But 1 through 11, this team's better. It's deeper. I think it would give that team a run for its money in a head-to-head matchup, and I like the guard matchup significantly better. So, God, it's so hard to say. And what I also like about this team is they're old in the right spots. I mean, I think when you get close to postseason play, it's the older teams that really kind of hold up. And you got Janai Broome, who's a senior, Jalen Williams, COVID senior. Trey's a sophomore, but he's playing really well.
Seamo's played a bunch of ball.
Chad Baker-Mazzaro's is in his 4th year of playing basketball because 1 year at Duquesne, 1 year at San Diego State, 1 year in junior college. So he's an older guy. Denver Jones is an older guy. He's in his 4th year playing basketball. So they're the right kind of team that I think has the opportunity to go further in the tournament. Are they better? I don't know. It's so hard to say because it's so early, but I really love this team from an efficiency standpoint. And you already said it. Bruce has never had, at this point, a top 10 offense and defense efficiency ball club. And he's got that right now. Now, is some of that a byproduct of who he's played? Maybe. But this team looked so good against Arkansas. And what you don't know is, was that more about Arkansas or was that more about Auburn? And A&M is what's really going to tell you what that was more about.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a good test. I think it's going to say a lot more. I think Arkansas's got issues and Auburn did what they should. I think A&M is going to be a different thing. Well, that 11-man rotation, is everybody up to the physical challenge. I can't wait. It's going to be a good one. We'll see if Auburn can start off 2-0. All right, everybody. Appreciate JHead for joining us. Go to auburnlive.com. We'll have post-game coverage Tuesday night. Obviously, plenty of football stuff going on. So that never ends. So make sure you're there. I think it's still $1 for a month. So there's no reason to not be a part of Auburn Live. They're still running like a $1 for a month. So that's a no-brainer. And be on the message board, man. I don't know if anybody's listening to this. It's not a member or whatever. Be on the message board. Anything going on right now, you would know if you were on our message board. We don't always write stories on things we think will happen. We just sort of have to project whatever, but you need to be on the message board and you'll be finding out all this stuff days in advance. So appreciate everybody for joining us. JHead, I'm Justin. Go to auburnlive.com. Check it out. We'll be back in a week and we'll see how Auburn performs against Texas A&M and LSU at home on that Saturday as well. LSU showed a little bit against A&M. Maybe that's not a pushover. We'll see. They got second year of their coach as well. So a couple of home games there for Auburn basketball as they try to get into this SEC play and get rolling here. All right. We'll see you next time. Bye.